Hello, this is Mike Mason of Chaosium, and this is one of the first prologue sessions of the campaign that I'll be running online, which is called The Dead of Winter, written by Tim Wiseman. And this is a playtest of the campaign with a group of people playing various characters. And for this prologue, we're starting off with a good friend of mine, Jayson. Jayson, hello.
How's
Jayson,
it
would you
going?
like? It's going well, thanks. Would you like to introduce yourself a little and then your character, please?
Of course, yeah. So my name is Jason. I am somebody who is one half of a charity RPG convention called Com Plus. But in my spare time, I do things like play Cthulhu, run Cthulhu, various other scenarios, mostly online and sometimes in person. But yeah, so my character for this new scenario called Cthulhu, his name is Maxime Lawrence Elliott. He is a dilettante, age 28, and essentially he is very rich, very polite. He specialized in a few things at Cambridge University, such as history and language, but also rather niche sports like boxing, sword stick, fencing, etc. He has an interesting history in that his mother is Russian and her family all go back sort of Russian ancestry and so on. But he still considers himself very English. He seems to be a very capable person, but he does have his secrets, and some of them are really quite personal. Something that plagues on his mind a lot, which I'm sure will be revealed later on in the campaign.
Very good, very good. Okay, well, we're gonna cut straight to it and dig into the very first scene. So, if you're ready to go, here we go. So, um, last night, uh, in your home, you had a dream, and you hadn't dreamt of this person for a little while, but it was quite a strong, vivid dream that you recalled the following morning, and you seem to remember that it was about Edward Rosenberg. Um, do you remember Edward Rosenberg from your past?
I certainly do, yes.
What
I-
would what connection did you have to Edward?
So he was essentially a friend, a colleague, if you will, at university. He studied along with me. But straight after we all finished our exams, we had a bit of a knees up. We all went our separate ways. He took his life. Um, I'm not sure how much you want me to reveal at this point, whether that's a good place for now.
Whatever
If
you feel like you want to say, that's fine. That's
okay,
fine.
yeah, I'm happy to leave it
But
there for now
a
then.
fairly close friend, you would say, at Cambridge.
Yeah, we were not absolutely close. We were not best friends or anything, but we definitely shared a few classes together. We'd been involved in a few projects, every so often. So definitely in sort of semi-close circles.
Okay, very good. Well, as I say, the Edward popped up in your dreams last night. It's a little vague on the circumstance. It was mainly maybe kind of almost reliving scenes from university life. Chatting around the quad and so forth. But the details kind of escape you by the morning. But it does kind of play in your mind throughout the day, and every now and again you find yourself sort of drifting back, just catching glimpses and moments from the dream which spur further memories perhaps of university and times with Edward. You finish up whatever you're doing that day. It's kind of early October. In fact, it's the 1st of October. It's a Tuesday, and the nights are drawing in fairly early these days. So you pack up whatever you've been doing and head home. And as you head home, it starts to rain, and it's pretty dark and gloomy. The streets clear fairly quickly. There's still people milling around, but you think actually to get out of this rain, you're going to take a shortcut, and sometimes you take it, sometimes you don't. But tonight you're going to take the shortcut down. Just it's basically an alley between two buildings that connects to your street a little rather quicker than going all the way around the block. And you start walking down the alley. It's empty. Rain is coming down, creating kind of puddles on the ground, and you see, as you sort of turn into the alley, you see a figure kind of stooped, kind of cleaning cleaning the bottom of their trousers. As you just in the kind of the light that there is, you see that the bottom of their trousers look dirty, maybe muddy. Their shoes look muddy, and they're kind of cleaning the bottom of their soles in one of the puddles that's collected from the rainwater. As as you sort of come a bit closer, you feel like it's not a very wide alley, so you're going to have to pass them. But there's something about the figure as you approach it. There's something familiar, and and you get this sort of sense that something isn't quite right. There's just your nerves just sort of just go on edge a little bit, and you sort of think, maybe I should turn around, or maybe I just need to briskly walk past this person. It's just a sense that isn't quite right. What's your kind of gut feel that you want to do?
I think definitely to begin with, he would have felt more, should I go back and take the alternative route? But I think even more than just stiff upper lip and going past, he's determined to know for sure, is it who I think it could be, or is it just, a facade, because of the darkness. So
Sure.
he actually calls out to this person. You there, what on earth are you doing? Shouldn't you be inside?
The figure looks up, and in the light you see their face. You see that it's Edward Rosenberg, and they kind of catch your eye, and there's this sort of smile on their face, and he turns and just sort of says, do you have a towel?
Uh, Ed? No, 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 it
Can
can't
I
be.
have a sanity roll, please?
Absolutely. What even is my sanity? As far as I remember, it's quite low. Oh, yes, it is. So good. Starting out terribly. I did pass though.
Okay, so that's just 1 point sanity loss.
Okay.
And maybe how would you describe your kind of 1 point sanity loss reaction?
I think definitely kind of raising heart, that kind of feeling of that horrible sort of tingling tension of your heart if like you sort of jumped out of your skin.
Yeah.
He's kind of saying no as in no in disbelief, but also trying to just engage with the dialogue because part of him is still thinking, no, it's not him. Obviously, it's not him. Ed is dead. Of course, it's not him.
Is that kind of like two
Two
voices in
minds.
your head,
Yeah.
kind of battling it out at the moment? I'm not quite sure which way to go. Um, as you stand there, kind of perplexed, really, and just that shock kind of overwhelming you momentarily. Um, Edward, comes forward. Not quickly, just as he would have done. He just casually sort of steps up and walks over to you. And as he says, "Didn't we say we would meet here today?"
What? Who are you?
It's Edward. Maxim, it's Edward. Yes, I've not changed that much, have I?
Um, I'm getting really, really flustered now. No, no, it's why? No, dream. Must be a dream. You're imagining my imagination. It's
He kind of looks, and he puts his hand on his face and says, "No, no. I thought we would. I thought we said we'd meet. Did I? I must have got it wrong." And he kind of looks up, and your eyes kind of involuntarily kind of follow his gaze, and he just looks up to the sky. And as you kind of look back to him, he's gone.
mm, just the dark. Just ah, and I sort of clutch myself from the cold and the wet and just march through the rest of the alley.
Just make a direct
Get
course
out of
home.
there.
You get home. Shake off the rain, and clearly you're somewhat shaken, but I don't know. What do you? Is this the is this like a waking dream, perhaps, or is it? Do you think this was Edward, or is this his ghost following you? I don't, what's your impression?
I would probably imagine he would think maybe it's just because of the dream and he feels a bit kind of disturbed by it and just memories, maybe fleeting memories or a coincidence. Again, it's sort of a bit chaotic in his mind, very unsettled. Um, so he sort of goes in, dries off quite viciously, um, paces up and down a bit, gets himself a rather nice glass of wine. In fact, he gets out a 10-year,
Yeah.
just to make it a little bit better.
Do
Uh,
do you have it like a glass, or do you drink the bottle?
he has a glass, but even so, like he drinks it quite quickly, starts topping it up, um, gets a fire lit.
Very
Uh,
good. Okay.
not him,
Well,
not him.
you spend the rest of the evening, trying to distract yourself, but inevitably, this kind of strange encounter, continues to play on your mind. Thankfully, um, over the next couple of days, it does wane, and you see no sight nor sound or dream even of Edward again, and life starts to fall back into normalcy, more or less, over the next couple of days. What's are you working at the moment? What are you doing daytimes these days?
Uh, Working is a very strong word. Um, no, I would imagine he alternates his days from either writing to his mother, going for country walks, maybe taking visits further afield to sample wines, food, things like that. So I'd imagine before he sort of had that encounter, he was probably out walking, come back into the village or town or whatever, and then go back home. So um, it's up to you, like depending on what you've
Well,
planned, or is it
if I remember correctly, Maxime is moneyed. He doesn't need to work. Is that right?
absolutely? He's
So it
he's
is a
very
kind of
much
whatever interests at the time, I guess.
yeah. He is very much of the attitude of he does not need to work. There is no reason for him to when he
So,
can easily just spend all his money doing things he likes.
sure. So over the next couple of days, he wants to detract himself, perhaps, and just feel his feet on firm ground, perhaps. What activity do you think he dri drives himself into for a day or two? Is it some sort of sporting thing, horse racing, or books or social?
I think, especially because of what happened the night before, he would spend the day after doing a bit of boxing to kind of get the anger out a little bit, and then spend the day reading history in particular. So something very, very real, very much, you know, grounded. Uh,
Quantifiable things,
yes, but
so to
something that
speak.
he still likes.
Yeah, okay, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Yeah. As I say, the next couple of days, you do that, you start to feel a little less shaky, and it comes to the 4th of October, which is the Friday of that week, and again, you spent the day probably headed and done some training, some sport training with the boxing and so forth, and maybe you've continued a bit of reading in the afternoon, and you're feeling a little tired. It's been you've kind of gone full exertion for 2 or 3 days. And thinking about maybe finishing off that bottle of wine if you haven't already tonight, and in fact, you probably do. You probably think, yeah, you have a meal, whether out or at home, and eventually you come home. It's getting late. You see the wine. There's probably just about a glass left now, and you pour yourself pour yourself a final glass. And as you are pouring the wine, is it a red or a white?
Oh, very much a red.
I thought it might be
Mm.
a red wine. As it's sort of splurping into the glass, you hear a cough,
Darling, Joan,
and then
you
you
alright?
hear you hear water running in the kitchen. There's no one answering you.
Joan, what are you doing?
You
You
hear you
thirsty?
hear you hear you hear, you hear Joan sort of call out to you from somewhere else in the house, not the kitchen, saying, I'm over here doing such and such. You definitely hear, and you hear another cough. Again, it seems to come from the kitchen.
I actually, if it's to hand, although I'm sure there is actually something in the sitting room, I say on the mantelpiece, but he grabs something like if there's a ceremony sword up top, or if there's his sword stick nearby, he kind of
Oh,
grabs
I
it and
think I
holds
think
it.
I think it's some sort of ceremonial sword above the mantelpiece sounds ideal. If
Okay, yeah,
so you can easily take that down.
yeah. He lifts it off carefully, just sort of a ready position, and carefully goes into the kitchen.
Okay, well you sort of got this impression of you kind of padding gingerly into the kitchen with this sword kind of raised, not quite sure what you're going to find. Hopefully, nothing too untoward. Um, as you sort of turn into the kitchen, you see Edward, who's at the sink washing up, who looks and sees you with the sort of surprise on his face. Go, oh my word! What are you doing with that?
Just a question. Obviously, I know it's sort of around 1929, but what's the lighting like in this room?
You've probably got electricity.
That's what I thought. If there's a light switch near him, he's gonna really quickly flick it on.
Okay. Okay, yeah, you flick it on, and the light comes on, and you see clearly it is Edward, hands wet, soapy, um, hands out of the sink now, but stood, over the sink, like still kind of gasping in surprise at the sword and yourself. Could I have a sanity roll, please?
Yep. Oh, that's a fail by quite a long way.
Okay, could you roll me a d6, please?
Hmm. Not that I would particularly like to. I got a one.
Oh, okay, okay, so okay, that's right. Okay, right. Well, what's your what's your kind of gut reaction to this figure standing in your sink? You got a sword in your hand, is what I'm thinking. What are you? Are you? Do you feel threatened at this point, or not?
No, in fact, the fact that Ed is washing up kind of throws him a little bit.
Okay, so I think
Um,
your involuntary action, as you lost a couple of sanity points. You're just kind of shocked again, and I think the sword kind of drops, and as it drops, you kind of unconsciously drop it to the floor with a clang, and that probably wakes you. The clang kind of re wakes you, and you kind of focus again on Edward. And as you do that, he just sort of opens his mouth and starts talking, saying that this water, it makes me think of something. It's as though I'm somewhere familiar. Um, it makes me feel as though I shouldn't be here. It's like I've come from somewhere else. What do you think that means?
so Maxime's gonna point like a very shaky finger towards him and says, you are not Edward, and no, you should not be here in my house. You are
He,
plaguing me, sir.
he sort of backs away a little. I think you can see this kind of the kind of gears in his head and in his eyes, kind of like a little shocked at you, it kind of like and taken aback. It kind of like didn't expect quite that reaction from you. Um, uh, he says, I can't be making sense, can I?
Of course, you're not making any bloody sense.
Oh well, I thought you were a good friend of mine, as he seems to genuinely, start to be getting as upset as you. And he, he he starts to kind of back away, paces towards the rear of the kitchen. What are you doing?
I'm keeping eye contact with him, but lowering myself down to get the sword again.
Okay,
Um,
can I have a can I have a look roll, please?
oh, okay. My luck is also not particularly high, but there we go. We'll see what happens. No, I do pass. Okay.
You did pass. Okay.
Yeah.
You kind of reached out for the sword. I was just checking whether you kind of involuntarily broke eye contact for a second, but you keep your eyes on him as you reach for the sword and find it and pick it up. What do you want to do now?
So I say quite threateningly, and normally this is not sort of a bit of his personality that comes out, but he's obviously feeling very emotional about this. He says, "Move towards that door right now."
He kind of pauses for a second as he just deliberates and he sort of quite quietly just sort of very well, and he walks with intent, past you through the door into the hall lounge area wherever you just come from. What do you do?
I keep him in my sights basically, so make sure he goes out.
Okay, okay. He goes out. He turns a corner, so you're kind of forced to kind of follow him out, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you turn the corner, you turn, see where he is. He's not there. You then spend the next 5 minutes checking the house.
hmm
No sign. But um, what's interesting though is you eventually come back to the kitchen just to check the doors or the windows or whatever, just in case, that which are all sealed, locked as normal. That that there is washing in the sink. Some of it has been done, and there are muddy boot prints on the floor in front of the sink, which clearly weren't you or anyone in the family. Um, which which is a bit that if you were, I guess, hallucinating, it's the hard bit to explain because there are muddy boot prints on the floor. So, however, you hear no more of Edward that day or night, and for the next few days, it seems to have been a well, not quite a one-off occurrence, but the two occurrences don't seem to be repeated. Thankfully, I guess from your opinion. Um, However, there is a kind of a coda at the end to this, in that come come a handful of days time, it gets to the 10th of October, and in the morning you get an unusual letter that's postmarked from Moscow, and I will just quickly give you the outline of what the letter says. Dear Sir, you do not know me, nor I you, but I badly need your help. My name is Nadezha Panova, um, sometimes called Nadezha Palliser. Uh, my husband, John Palliser, is British. He's working for the Soviet government as an engineer, and I think that his new role on the Belomor Canal may put him in danger in several ways. John cannot write this, so I do. John and I see the loved dead. I think you do as well. A man here knows of this, and it was he that gave me your name and those of a few others. He knows we all see them. He says he will talk to us about this. I know no more than you of that, but I think we have to work together, help each other with all of our heads. This is very severe to me. I know you can agree. It is a great request, I know, but you must come to me here. Please come on the ship that leaves London Bridge on October the 27th to join this tour. And when you reach Moscow, come to me at my address above as soon as you can. With great respect, Nazdezhda Palisa. And included in the letter is a tour of Russia, uh, 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 written in English, and with full details, which I will make available to you as a player handout in due course. And as I say, that this letter, the stamp is a Russian stamp. It is marked Moscow, um, and it arrives for you in the morning on the 10th of October in the morning. And other than feeling slightly strange, there's not a lot more to it than that. Um, so we'll just move on slightly to later in the day when there's a third post, and you get another letter, which again is slightly odd, but perhaps not quite as odd as the first one, which I'll give you a quick overview now. It's um, it's from the Foreign Office in Downing Street, SW1.
Right.
Thursday, Thursday, 10th of October, 1929. Dear Mr. Elliot, I'm writing to you on behalf of the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs to seek your attendance this evening at St. Ermin's Hotel, Caxton Street, Westminster. My apologies for the very short notice and also for no doubt the unexpected arrival of this request. I thank you in advance for your assistance in this manner. I thank you for your assistance as this matter is of some urgency and importance. If you could arrive by 7 p.m., please ask at the desk for my representative, Mr. Weston. Yours sincerely, Walford Selby, Private Secretary. And with that, we'll finish there.
Okay.
So there you
Thank
go.
you.
Thanks very much. And join us again for the other prologues coming immediately after this one.